So we're going to jump into some of the statistics, look at what infrastructure is going in, and open up the heat map. So if you want to see what I've found, let's get into it. So the first place we want to start is the heat map. You can see Brisbane is looking quite red right now. Most of it is $1 million plus. You get these little pockets in here that are under $1 million, but pretty flood affected. Acacia Ridge isn't. I don't know why it's not. I think it's still value for money. This is only 10 k's out, but there are sort of train lines, bits and pieces. But you've also got Inala and these sort of pockets, but you can see clearly they're in the sevens. And then these are just outside your Springfield Lakes. So you got Red Bank and Collingwood Park and Goodna. You could get 4-bedroom, 2 baths out there for, say, like, there's a stage when you could get them for 500, which I was getting, and then I pushed to 550. Now they're sitting around that 650 mark. And they're probably at the highest that they've ever been, but they still match. If you go ahead and you do a house land package out there, you're spending upwards of 750k. So they're still under that price point. So people are still opting to get existing houses. And the prices out here are just climbing relatively to what's happening in the inner city. So as all these prices creep up to over that $1 million mark, it's just pushing people further and further away. People that have like $1 million, what happens is they need a house. They've got kids. They need a bigger home, and you just simply can't get that in the inner city. Might get a townhouse, but if you've got a family, that's going to get pretty tight pretty quickly. So then, those townhouses are mainly going to first home buyers in the unit market, which is very strong at the moment. But then, yes, it's bringing all of those family type buyers, probably not so much with the $1 million, out to the Ipswich side of town, most likely around Springfield Lakes. But as those prices actually start to rise, they'll then be fed into these other suburbs across Ipswich, and then we've also got Ripley, Deebing Heights, which is another sort of new estate, but maybe trying to be as close as possible to, train lines, which is one in Goodna, and then you've also got your train line in Springfield Lakes. Makes it a bit more livable. Flinders View and that are great if you can buy in at the right price, because you've actually got the highway there that can get you into the city within, 30, 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at the most. So if you look at other factors, like another thing that keeps coming up is stock. So we can really look at total for sale, and this is where it starts to really unpack what's going on in some of these areas. So you can see there's quite dark green in the middle, because there's a lot of units coming through. But then the units, even though they're coming through, you're spending close to $1 million. And we've got that same thing happening. So Red Bank has 85 listings, and you can see how crippling low some is 8, 16. There's very low stock levels at the time, at this moment. But you've got Pollara and at 44. But these are new estates that's coming through. And yes, they might be high numbers, but what I mentioned earlier around the pricing that they're selling these blocks for, it's really offsetting it. So the blocks are selling for pretty much 400k. You might be able to get these smaller blocks, like under 300 square meters, for less, like 300, and then you could probably put into like a house land package, maybe get that under 700k. But most of the time, you're spending over 750 to get a house and land package on 400 plus square meters. Greenbank, I haven't necessarily been buying in Greenbank, but it is a new sort of area that's coming up. There's a lot of land that's coming through. So I necessarily haven't been, because it's quite like away from everything. I don't know if they've actually got the buses going in and all of that. It's quite suburban. Oh, not suburban. I mean, it's acreage, but they've got to develop all that infrastructure. But they're getting quite high, sales in there as well. They've even got some $1 million sales, and that's across all of these suburbs. I've had properties sell for $1 million. So there's definitely that capacity there. There's that demand, and also that sheer pressure from the inner city that could push these property prices from, say, 600k to 800, 900k over the next 10 years, if you're looking to hold this type of asset. Um, as I mentioned earlier, 40% are own rocks in suburbs like Redbank Plains and Redbank. A lot of investors are buying these properties or have bought them in the past. I know because I target these areas pretty heavily, and they're the greatest people to try and buy off. A lot of them were actually from China, so you'll start to see that stock come through. But when you really start to shop in these suburbs, you realize nobody's selling them for cheap, and the prices are growing. So now 4.2s are selling for about 700K in these areas. But if you push hard enough, you can still get some 4-bedroom 2 baths for under 600. So like I just picked up one in Bundamba, which is somewhere around here. I picked it up for 580,000 for a client, a 4-bedroom 2 bath built in 2016, and it was already renting for 580 per rent. So that's a 5% yield. So since us purchasing it 4 weeks ago, we should settle it next week. It's now worth 630 to 50,000. So the client's picked up some pretty strong capital growth, and we haven't even settled on the property. So just contacting agents, being very quick. Once you get a property, do your due diligence and putting in offers straight away. That particular property itself was a divorce sale. So we found it off market, we moved in quickly and we secured it, and we got it for a good price. So these markets are very strong markets to buy in. If you got a budget of under say 600, 650, you can still get into these markets. It's just quite difficult, but that makes it an even stronger market to buy into. So if you're going to take your 650 to say a regional town or somewhere remote, just because the data says it and it makes it a bit easier to buy, you'll still get growth. But if it's a bit harder, that means, in my opinion, if it's harder to buy, that means there's more potential for it to actually not just grow, but literally explode, like go up a couple 100,000 in 12 months. I've seen that happen countless times. So not just opting for the regional town straight away when you can afford a capital city. But that really wraps it up. You can see inventory levels across Brisbane are stupidly low. That's what the dark red is. Just an indicator of super low stock. There's days on market which are actually sitting all under 25 days. So Brisbane as a market is extremely hot. Like all the data points are showing that it's under pressure right now. So something that's under this much pressure still has capacity for very strong capital growth over the next year or next 2 years. So after showing you all of this, I hope this really makes you understand the whole dynamic of Ipswich, but also how Brisbane influences Ipswich. Once you go into these suburbs, just to finish up, like you just got to be careful of your flood maps. If you're looking to buy a home, like you can just simply go into the Ipswich flood maps, search the address, do yourself a favor just so you don't buy a flood property. This is happening up in Townsville as well. A lot of people from Sydney, Melbourne are buying up in Townsville, and they're buying these flood-affected properties. And you can simply just go onto the council websites and just double-check that, because if you buy flood-affected property, you're really going to stuff yourself up for capital growth, and also you're going to be holding a dud. So doing your research when you find a property is essential, and just once you find a property, make sure you just do your checks, because we've already established that there's a great high growth area. It's about buying a strong asset in that area and just not overpaying. And that wraps it up. You can see just through those data points and the heat map, the pressure that's going into the Ipswich region. Just if you're looking in the area, make sure you check your flood maps. Make sure you look at your comparable sales, and make sure you don't overestimate how much you can rent for. If you are looking to buy an investment property in the Brisbane region and you might want a bit of help, jump onto my website, book in a free strategy session, and I can run you through how I've been helping clients, and also just run you through what's happening with the market at that particular time. But thanks for watching, and like the video, subscribe if you got some value from it.